great state of Iowa, Congresswoman.
Thank you so much, John. It's wonderful to be with both you and Amanda.
Yes, well, this is our favorite conversation of ours because we've been presented a false choice for a long time. We've been spent $2-3 trillion trying to build a clean energy economy. We really haven't made a lot of progress. Emissions keep going up. There is other ways to do this and getting rid of all the fossil fuels. You've been working on that. I know you hosted some members of Congress down in Texas. Tell us where the path for conservatives to conserve our environment goes.
Well, first of all, let me just say that we as conservatives, as Republicans, we want to leave a cleaner, healthier planet for our children and our grandchildren. So let's start with that premise. If we want to do that, how's the best way to do that that doesn't ruin our economy? Because we know that we need to be able to compete globally. So we need to be able to export, to produce, to manufacture here in the United States. We especially know that given what happened during the pandemic and our reliance on China and what's happening in Ukraine now. So we need a strategy and a plan for energy production, energy generation, that is a strategy that allows us to be flexible, that allows us to, to adapt for different states, for rural states. I'm a rural state as well as urban areas. So a one-size-fits-all strategy or policy is not going to work throughout the United States. So having, liquid fuels, very important. Also, given all of the variety of things that are made with oil and gas and petroleum products. So, for instance, I'm in the healthcare field, and we have a shortage right now of saline and Ringer's lactate that you get through IVs, and that's because those bags are made with, guess what, petroleum products. So, also, I like to point out to people, there's about 300 million vehicles on the road today. So these are, personal vehicles, motorcycles, small trucks, and it takes about 30 kilowatt hours to have a 100-mile charge. So if you multiply, simple math, 300 million vehicles by 30 kilowatt hours, you then see how many kilowatt hours in the trillions it's going to take just to power the transportation section alone. And you cannot get there with wind and solar. So that's a false narrative.
Absolutely. And that number is astronomical. But, when it comes to the narrative coming from the left about clean energy, they're so militant and legalistic about it that, like John said, it's a binary choice. It's this false choice between these two things. But you, along with your Iowa colleague in the Senate, Joni Ernst, you guys have both been talking about the energy that Iowa could unleash for the American people, but the Biden administration just doesn't seem receptive to it. But do you think that at any point in the future, the Iowa option, the Texas option, any of these options across our wonderful 50 states, is that something that Joe Biden is going to entertain, knowing how much that would alleviate the pressure on the American people?
Absolutely. I think, the war in Ukraine has really pointed out the necessity for energy independence. We have to be energy independent in this country. And we were just 18 months ago. We know that the price of filling up your car can be less than it is now. So the narrative on, trying to, the Biden administration trying to ruin the oil and gas industry, that has changed very rapidly in a short period of time. People understand and they support the fact that we need liquid fuels, we need oil and gas. And here in Iowa, we could make up with all of the imports of Russian oil and gas with ethanol. And so having this liquid fuel industry, this blended fuel, is one way to help reduce emissions. And we have done that in Iowa. So Iowa on its own, without carbon emission standards, without mandates, 50% of our energy in Iowa is from renewables. 50% of our electricity is from wind. We've done that without mandates. We've done that without emission standards. We are a net exporter of energy. If we can do this in Iowa, think what we can do throughout the entire United States to get cleaner energies, having the flexibility within our states to do what makes sense in our state, and we can get to a policy where we reduce emissions and offset them. It's absolutely doable, but you need to have an energy strategy, an energy policy to do that, and you need to stop putting and pitting people against one another. We can do this combined together, and then also using American innovation. Let us do what we do best, and that is to innovate, and we will find the solutions for how to get cleaner energy, how to support our environment, but not, penalize us economically. And then no one looks at the impact of solar and wind, what the environmental impact is for production, but also what happens to those used wind turbines, to those blades, to those solar panels when their life is expended. And that becomes another nightmare in landfills, just as desktop computers did several years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, such a great point. Doesn't get talked about a lot, but that is a big crisis on the horizon. Congressman, I want to ask you about this. You talked about innovation. One of the places where America is innovating more than anyone is in the nuclear power industry. It's often left out of the conversation by Democrats. How important is nuclear to a low carbon future?
Nuclear is extraordinarily important. Several of us went to COP26 this year, and one of the things that we were doing was bringing up the renewables that you have in organics, such as ethanol, biodiesel, manure, digesters, but also bringing up the importance of nuclear. So we know that we have fourth and fifth generation nuclear reactors, that the smaller reactors are very safe. They're also working with the DoD for portable nuclear reactors, but you cannot get to a carbon-free future without nuclear. So you need nuclear, you need our liquid fuels for flexibility within states, for those that travel long distances. You need wind and solar, but we also need to have manufacturing and mining of those metals that are necessary. You can't even improve the electric grid without having copper, and yet the Biden administration is not allowing the permits to go through for the Duluth mine up in Minnesota. So we know we have rare earth elements, we have lithium, we have copper, we have cobalt. We have all of the natural resources in this country to be able to have a bright future for rising energy demand. As you said, John, energy demand is not going down, it's going up. And we are not going to accept rolling brownouts and sky-high electricity prices as they're doing in California and as they're doing in Europe.
Yeah.
Congresswoman, we've just got about 30 seconds left, so quick answer. I'm here in California. We obviously try to utilize wind and solar, but you do it very successfully in Iowa. If you could dumb it down, distill it down to just one thing, what are we doing wrong in California and what are you doing right in Iowa?
In Iowa, we have, an administration, a phenomenal governor, Governor Reynolds, who understands that there is a variety of energy sources, and we're going to maximize what our natural resources here in our state. In California, they're trying to push just one method of energy, and that's wind and solar. That is not enough to power California.
Yeah. One size
that contributes to the brownouts and blackouts. Congresswoman Miller-Meeks, we appreciate you so much, your insight on all of this, and we'll have you back on.